So, there's one Star Wars show that a lot of fans have really been not looking forward to, I must add, and that, of course, is all rooted down to the Acolyte series by no other than Leslye Headland. That's also a Kathleen Kennedy-driven product that's going to release by spring of 2024, unless delays, of course, settle in further, kicking it off into the summer. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support, and let's get right into exactly what's going on here with, of course, everything ranging from Kathy Kennedy to Leslye Headland mishandling a very big, important piece of Star Wars philosophy and lore that is all rooted back to George Lucas that is now being deconstructed and dismantled. As sad as it is happening behind closed doors, and it will be debuting in, of course, the Disney Plus platform in 2024. Now, we know that there's been a lot of different shakeups happening between Kathy Kennedy and Leslye Headland against the Disney executives who have been very unhappy about this show, through various test screenings, of course, and really having a lot of issues about its direction. We know that Carrie-Anne Moss is one of the lead actors in this series, and that's exactly where it comes from, of how Leslye talks about how this show is basically Star Wars meets The Matrix, meets Kill Bill, meets Frozen. As crazy as that sounds, that's how Leslye put it there. So let's get into exactly what's going on here. Now, right now with Lucasfilm desperately trying to steer Star Wars in a correct path by Favreau and Filoni, who, by the way, are the only passionate creators out there alongside Tony Gilroy, one of the recent developments is deeply concerning essentially for the Star Wars fandom. Writer Leslye Headland is preparing something monumental for the Acolyte show that is going to create yet again something monumental for the Acolyte series that is going to also create fan division similar to that of The Last Jedi. One of the big plans for The Acolyte by Leslye Headland is that she is set to completely reframe the perception of the Jedi in this show to make them appear like the antagonists, aka the bad guys of the story, where the Sith are going to be written as the heroes and the ones chasing for freedom, and the Jedi seen as the evil ones. Headland's extreme take on the Acolyte is to make the fans understand the Sith deeply and where they are coming from and why they are portrayed as evil. She is planning to humanize the Sith as essentially protagonists in this story and is on track to completely undoing the concept of good versus evil, but rather a theme that she is approaching of misunderstanding good versus evil and how the bigger picture is not seen. So let me stop here. This completely destroys the whole concept of Star Wars. It has always been about good versus evil, evil versus good, whatever way, of course. George Lucas wrote it that way, and it's how it should remain as is. So basically, Leslie's approach here, like I just stated before, is that it is going to be about misunderstanding good versus evil. And whatever you want to translate that to, I think it just translates to, we don't want to make people evil anymore. We don't want to make people bad guys anymore. We want to humanize everybody. And that, of course, is yet again another Kathy Kennedy-driven thing. We have seen her really humanize Boba Fett to the point where he barely did anything of the sorts extremely violent against somebody else, like a competitor or another bounty hunter or anything like that, to an extreme degree, like how we got in the comics or in the, of course, other forms of Star Wars legends, right? They really did humanize him way too much, where he came off as way overly kind and very much, sentimental and personable, stuff like that. A lot of fans didn't like that, believe it or not, and I myself am one of them. But Kathy Kennedy and Leslye are taking it to the extreme now, where it's going to make that look like a masterpiece. The Book of Boba Fett specifically look like a masterpiece. So this is basically about making the Jedi as the evil, dogmatic, self-driven type of individuals, and they want to make the Sith more around the lines of these more good-hearted, rooted souls that are just misunderstood, and we're going to be learning about why they essentially are evil and why they became evil. They're going to be tapping into the origin of the Sith, where they really started, and how we've gone over this before. One of the storyboards about the Acolyte involves a flashback going way back. We're talking about back to the ancient times of how the Sith were good and how the Jedi corrupted them. And that's basically what they want to do with the Acolyte, set within the High Republic era. But it doesn't end there. Let's move on. Now, this is a plan to deconstruct George Lucas's Star Wars from the inside out, especially as the Jedi Order and the Jedi Code is planned to go completely upside down in the show, where the Jedi will be breaking many rules and going against how they are portrayed traditionally in the movies and the lore. Both Headland and Kathy Kennedy are on a move to also completely changing the nature of Yoda's character and why he's absent. One storyboard illustration describes Yoda goes off to Ahch-To, much like Luke did in the sequels, to exile himself during a hard point in the High Republic era as he believes the Jedi fall for a while. This comes from Leslie, who is a die-hard fan of Rian Johnson and fits the bill. Disney test screenings of The Acolyte have already been failing terribly behind closed doors, and Iger is also very worried about the outcome. So again, the fact that Leslie is a big, hardcore fan of Rian Johnson and The Last Jedi just speaks volumes, and it goes to show you exactly why she's doing this approach. Just like in The Last Jedi, it was all about deconstructing Luke, really kind of changing his purpose in life and what the fans think about the character, right? Completely flipping the character upside down. Now she's taking it to the next level by doing the same exact thing with the Jedi. Now, Rian Johnson kind of touched on that in The Last Jedi, but not all that much. But everything related to it in that sense, at least. But Leslie's taking it way too far at this point, and I think it's exactly why a lot of people are not looking forward to this show, especially myself, because of what she also said about George Lucas and how if you expect George to always be in the room and you only expect him to be the key to Star Wars, then you are against women. That's basically what she has said before in the past, back in 2019 and again in 2021. And I'm sure she's going to have a lot more to say about that. But yet, she goes on stage at of course, Star Wars Celebration this year and says the franchise saved her life, and yet she says that about George Lucas. What does that tell you about her? It tells you a lot, quite actually, because when she was making Russian Doll, she couldn't name a single Star Wars movie. Literally, could not name a single Star Wars film. Knew nothing about the franchise, but now claims that she grew up with the EU, the expanded universe, etc. It just sounds like a front, to me, is what Leslie Headland is, and how Kathy is kind of orchestrating her to kind of come across as this diehard EU fan. Well, look at it this way. She's claiming she's an expanded universe fan, but she's not making an expanded universe story. Does that even also make any sense? It doesn't, actually, because this is a High Republic story. This is a 100% Kathleen Kennedy product. So overall, guys, I would love to hear what you all have to say about everything ranging from the Acolyte and all of the strict, overall visions that Kathy and Leslie have in place for this show. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.
From night to moon, we hear them moans again.